Welcome to a special edition of Bobcat Breakdown. Tonight's episode will be an hour long for our mid-season special as we comb through all of the fall sports. Which team will have the most playoff success and whose season will end early? Also, is there a goalie controversy brewing in Hamden? All that and more coming up on this special episode of Bobcat Breakdown. Hello, welcome. I'm joined alongside Tyler Brochers and Patrick Pitts, our field hockey experts. Guys, how are you today?
Hey, no complaints for a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Feeling great, man. Feeling great.
Guys, let's get right to it. The Quinnipiac field hockey team had a historic victory last Friday when they beat Old Dominion University, who was ranked 19th in the nation. Tyler, let's start with you. Which player had the biggest impact in the victory?
Well, I'm going to do a cop-out. I'm going to pick two, but they're sisters, so we're going to count them as a
That's
package
fine.
deal.
Allow.
The Ruiz-Martinez sisters just seem to be able to do so well what they were brought here to do, which was bring the ball to the midfield. Ines Ruiz-Martinez has some of the best hands I've ever seen in field hockey. What she can do in possessing the ball and making the big opportunities for the likes of Dana Barlow, Savannah Riley, is just flat out tremendous. While her sister, who's picked up a significant amount of time from last year, is doing the same exact thing on the other side. And it's so great to see. You know, I have a twin brother. I played sports with him. You had that little bit of connection from the family. They almost seem to know where everyone's going on the field, but especially each other. And this is leading passes to Elisa, who can outlet it to Barlow. And before you know it, those offensive chances that weren't happening in the first 2 or 3 games are now really coming to fruition as the sisters get to know everyone else.
Pat?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the defensive side. I'm gonna say Olivia Galini, just because that first half they struggled as a team a little bit. Just kind of they're playing a nationally ranked team. You're gonna have those jitters coming out of the gate, just a little just kind of confusion. But then second half they stepped it up, and Olivia Galini made some crucial saves throughout the game, especially in that second half, and even in overtime. That kept the Bobcats in the game. And then Angie King also, she's just been a crucial part of this team, really shutting out Danielle Gregor, the lead scorer for Old Dominion.
All right, Pat, we'll stick with you. This team has overcome numerous obstacles since joining the Big East. What has been the number one that they've overcome?
Oh, definitely the goalie situation. You have Megan Conboy from last year, your star goalie for so many years, and then you have Olivia Galini step in as a freshman. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of question marks there, and she stepped into this role tremendously. She's been a huge key to the success of this team so far, and really the reason why they are having so much success in the Big East.
For me, it has to be just the whole situation they're dealing with right now. Not only are you jumping up a conference to the Big East, my dad was calling me last week like, what's the Big East? And I was like, Dad, it's like moving from any division in college football to the SEC. You are now playing with the top premier teams in field hockey and collegiately, and then you add in the fact, great, congrats, you're in the Big East. Now you have to play your toughest year, and we're taking away your home field. You're on a bus to practice, and I've driven it plenty of times this year. It's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. Then you got to go to games. It throws off your whole routine. For the likes of Lily Shimo, Angie King, who've been here for 4 years, there's a routine you get to accustom every game. Whether it's you go to the calf, come back for a nap, and then you go to the game. That is thrown off this year because of their travel, and it shows how well they've done and overcome this. Then there's a little tricks. You probably know where you are in the field. You got to get used to it. They're playing at a completely different place they've never played at before, and they've done it so well this year, especially at home. They've had some huge wins, including Old Dominion, which is really where they showed how good they can be.
We'll get to that victory right now. Here's a clip of Becca Main after the Old Dominion video.
To the game and played 60 minutes, 66, 67. This was almost, 85 minutes of awesome hockey, of individual skills, of people having each other's back. It's about the chemistry of a team, and the chemistry of this team has stuck together, and they've given the biggest win in history for us. We've never beaten a top 20 team. So for us, that's a really huge step forward. Put us in a place where now you're 3-2 in the Big East, you're contending to get into this championship, and then as we know today, anything can happen when you get to the championships. So it really was the greatest win I've ever had.
All right, so you guys saw that clip. What has this season meant to Becca Main's legacy? Tyler, let's start with you.
I've been with this team almost exclusively for the past 2 seasons, and when you spend so much time with the team, you get to know the coaches. And, I did not know a lot about the field hockey program until starting to cover them last year. So talented. Becca Main, she's brought this from Division II up to, through all the different divisions, the MAC where they just walked in and dominated, and now to the Big East. I think it doesn't even solidify her legacy, what happened, because she's done such amazing work. It's just another stepping stone to show she's, I would say, in the top 2, even considered probably the best coach on this campus. I would say definitely the most undervalued.
Now, Pat, before we get to you, Tyler, you've covered this team. You said a lot, dating back before this year. Is this the biggest win in program history?
It has to be. There's no doubt. You saw it from the likes of Angie King for four years. I've been friends with Angie for those years. You could see she walked off the field and she looked at me and Becca and she said, "It's so good to have a positive cry." And there's been, tough times. This team has started off pretty harsh for 3 seasons. They've always been able to overcome it, and then up in the postseason. I know we'll get to that. But I think Becca Mann looked at me and she said, "That's been 22 years in the making." And I got down to field level. I don't even think I knew how big of a call it was. By the time I got down to the field, you saw the parents, you saw the players, and by the time I got to the coaches, Becca Mann kind of just put her arm around me and was like, "I need 3 or 4 minutes because I need to mentally just sink in what just happened." That was massive.
Pat?
Yeah, this win solidifies. She already has an unbelievable legacy to begin with, but it's just another thing to add to a resume. You know what I mean? Just like another huge step for her. I mean, Tyler said it just then. She brought this program from D2 to D1, and then they dominated the MAC. Last year making to the MAC finals, and then they get into the Big East, which is for the big dogs. It's where the big boys play, and. This year, there's a lot of questions, on this team, whether they would, have success. And, a win like that is just, it's so huge. And, it just speaks volume to the team.
All right, transitioning into the playoffs, Tyler, you mentioned it, so we'll start with you. Straight up, will this team make the playoffs?
Yes. I think what happens with this team is, tip the cap again, covered them a lot. I know this team, they're a late bloomer, and they've had a lot of young talent. Livy Galini, they were so used to Megan Conboy and the way she acts and how she plays. There's little twerks out there that only field hockey players know when you have a goalie where she's going to be, you almost have that sense. I think it's all coming together. It will all come down to Temple on Friday. And Temple had some really impressive wins themselves. I just think when you ride the hot hand, I know we just saw them lose in overtime and out of conference, but these girls are mature enough, especially the likes of Angie King, Savannah Riley, Dana Barlow. They know how important games are, but they know how much more important in-conference games are. And it's that extra notch, and they're used to it. They're going to travel down to Philly. It's not that long of a drive where different things. They've been on planes this year. It's a whole different adjustment period. It's back to a little bit of the norm, and I think it's going to be a really good time for them.
Pat, will they be playing again?
Yes. I believe they will defeat Temple. They just lost to Holy Cross in overtime 2-1. That's not really the game they're focusing on right now. They're focusing on Temple. That was a warm-up game, as they say. They're focusing on Temple because this is probably their most important game to the season behind Old Dominion. They need to win this game, and they can do it. Temple is 2-3 in conference play. We know Quinnipiac 3-2. They have the leg up on them. They've beaten teams that Temple has not, and they match up well. And if those key players come to play, which they will because they do come in late. They're late bloomers, as Tyler said. They play when they come when it matters. I really see them making a playoff push.
All right, I want just a number. Just a number. What % chance do they have of beating UConn? Tyler, start with you.
2.
2%? Pat?
I'll say 30.
30%?
30%.
Okay.
Because it's all right. UConn is better than them in every.
UConn's goalie is giving up less than a goal a game.
They won 2 of the last 2 national championships.
I never say it's not over 50%. I just want to know. It's not over
it's almost a third though.
No one respects more what they do for the program and the school than I do. But the fact of the matter is, this team is defensively built, and there's an onslaught of scorers on UConn's team. And then if you have to get 2 or 3 goals, you're not getting it. You're not going to be able to have a shootout game when you have Nina Klein, number 88, for UConn. She is putting up .93 goals against average. Banana land. And that's why this team is number 1 nationally ranked. I would almost consider the victory they came 2-1, 3-1. That's where you want to keep it. But I think this could find itself at a 5-0, 7-1 game just because it is such a tough
you're saying
team.
if they lost 2-1, it would be almost like a moral victory.
Yes.
They were able to keep it that close. Okay.
But here's the thing. We said that against Old Dominion.
You said that against Old Dominion. I didn't.
We were on the call. We said before, this could be a 5-1 game, 4-1 game. What happened? They went out and proved us wrong. In games like this, they prove doubters wrong.
Right there.
Before, they just prove them wrong. Everyone's saying, oh, UConn, they do beat them in every stat. You name a stat, they beat them at. Their top scorer, Charlotte Venter, she has more points than Quinnipiac's top 5 scorers combined, yes, that's unbelievable, but don't count them out. This could be a Cinderella story that like they beat them and it could be unbelievable.
The one thing QU does have is Angie King, who is so good she was Big East preseason. She's really good. She could play one of their top offensive players. That could be the difference maker. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying realistic opportunities right now. It probably won't.
All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. When we come back, our very own Drew Feinberg will be with Tom Cunningham in the Piazza as they break down our rugby team. And the bow tie wearing John Franklin will discuss our volleyball team with Chris Dacey. We'll be right back.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike's sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation. Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike's sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
The Quinnipiac rugby team rematched the one team that beat them last year, and our very own Drew Feinberg is in the Piazza with rugby expert Tom Cunningham.
Drew Feinberg here, sitting alongside rugby aficionado Tom Cunningham. Tom, how you doing this evening?
I'm great, Drew. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well. Let's get right into it. The undefeated women's rugby team traveled cross-country to play Central Washington on Saturday, a team they haven't beaten in their last 2 meetings. In a defensive battle, QU fell once again to Central Washington 19-12. Tom, with this team coming off a national championship last season and riding an undefeated record up until this game, what's your reaction to the loss to Central Washington this weekend?
You know, Drew, you mentioned coming off the national championship and the 11-game winning streak, but I really don't think much of that matters to this team. I think they came in and they played one of the toughest programs in the country. Not just a team, but these are two of the top programs in the country. You always see Central Washington and Quinnipiac the last 5 or 6 years as some of the best teams in the nation year in and year out, and that's what you saw here today. You saw one of the best college rugby games, as Becky Carlson said, one of the best women's college rugby games in the country. It was a defensive battle. It was really a lot of back and forth action. Neither team able to get much going in the offensive end, but that's because the two defensive lines are so strong for these two teams. It was a tough loss, but with Central Washington, they're so balanced and they're so deep that I don't think it's not too much to worry about for this team.
What does this loss mean going forward for this team later in the season, do you think?
You know, I think it's definitely something that this team can learn from. You know, you go cross-country, a cross-country trip against anyone is going to be tough, let alone the best team in the country. So 19-12, that's a tough battle. We saw Flora Poole and Mason Johnson each pick up a try in the match. So, you know, other people are scoring. The team relies so heavily on Alona Marr, Maggie Miles, and Emily Roscott for the scoring. It was nice to see some other players get in the try zone and pick up some points for this team. Becky Carlson said after the game that this QU squad is the toughest and strongest that she's ever had here, which says a lot because she's had some really good teams here, including a team that won the national championship last season. So this team going forward, I think they have a very bright future. It'll be a great run to the end of the season, and it'll be really interesting to see how they rebound from a match like this.
Central Washington recently joined the NIRA, which is the division Quinnipiac is also in. Do you think that these two teams will meet again come the national championship game?
Right now, I think all signs are pointing towards that, Drew. These are the two best teams. We saw it on Saturday. They played a tough physical battle, and I don't see how anybody else could beat either one of these teams right now. I think as long as these two teams stay on the course that they're on, both teams are outscoring their opponents by over 45 points a game. That's incredible. That's an incredible mark, and you don't see any other teams in the country scoring at that margin. So I think these two teams are definitely on a crash course for the national championship game. You look at the remaining schedules for the two teams. Quinnipiac has two very winnable games playing AIC and Castleton, and Central Washington also two more games. One comes against BYU. BYU beat Central Washington a couple of years ago. BYU, another one of those tough West Coast teams that's always hard to beat. They always bring their A game, especially playing a team like Central Washington. So I think these two teams are primed for a national championship rematch.
Well, that's going to do it for us here in the Piazza. For Tom Cunningham, I'm Drew Feinberg. Josh, back to you in the studio.
I'm joined alongside John Franklin and Chris Stacy. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Josh, really excited to talk some volleyball.
Great, as am I. Let's get right to it. This team has seen a complete turnaround after going 1-17 in conference play last year. They are currently 8-2. Are the freshmen the main reason for their success?
Chris, you want to take this one?
I'll take this one. I believe so. The freshman big three I have right here, Maria Pansari, Alexandra Rodriguez, and Natalie Aleko. Maria Pansari, she is 6th in the nation for total assists right now, and at one point she did lead the nation in assists. And then you have Alexandra Rodriguez. She does it all. She's a huge defensive player in there for the Bobcats. And then you have the freshman, Natalie Aleko, who has 194 kills as a freshman. She's second on this team, right behind Jen Coffey. I have to say the freshmen have been making a huge impact this year for the team. What about you, John?
Well, you know, Chris, if I had to look at it, you said you had a freshman big three.
Yes.
But if I had to pick a big three for the team, I think only one of them would be a freshman. It'd be Maria Pansari. You know, she's top 10 in the nation in assists. She's unbelievable. You cannot knock her ability on the court. Alejandra Rodriguez is having a great freshman season, but when I look at the team, I see Kat Miller, who is one of the most unbelievable role players you could have on the court. She can serve, she can make a dig, she could get a kill. She's the reason I think, especially in the Marist game, we're going to talk about it, when you look at a team comes back 3 points down, and she brings them back and she says, hey, we got to calm down and get back into it. And then Elizabeth Kloos would be the other part of my three. Just another senior presence that they need on the court.
All right, you mentioned the Marist game. Here's a clip of Coach Chris Saplinski after the Marist victory.
Without a doubt, I think every win that we go forward right now is going to be the most important win. But this one was huge because Marist is so talented, and we've never beaten them before. So another record is broke there, and we're off to our best start. And in Division I history. So, hats off to this team and what they're doing.
Chris, we'll start with you. Do you agree with Coach that this was the biggest win in program history?
I have to here. This is a huge win, not only for MAC standings, but just for this team's confidence overall. Excuse me. Marist is a great team there in the MAC. And listen, I know this is a big game for them. It is the biggest game, but they have to go to Marist and Fairfield again and play them at their places. This is the biggest win so far, but if they go and beat Fairfield or a Marist team, that is also going to be the biggest win of their season. So yes, so far this is their biggest game.
But later down the road.
Yes,
I have to agree with that. If you were there, that last ball hit the court, and Kat Miller got that kill, and everyone, there was like a sigh of relief. The crowd went nuts. There was a rush of the court. It was unbelievable. It's clearly the biggest win that Zaplinski has seen in his time here. But like Chris said, there are still 2 more parts of the season where they got to get the job done in Act 2 against Fairfield and Act 2 against Marist. If they do that and they get second place outright, then we could say this might be the biggest win.
So you mentioned the home game. Do you think the away games will be harder for them and they might lose those games?
I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. I know they've played better at home, but they still have a winning record on the road. Obviously, Marist and Fairfield are both great teams, but it'll still be close. It'll still probably. I think they're both going to go to 5 sets.
Chris?
Any away game is tough for a team, even for a team like this. Against those teams, it's not going to be as easy as it was at home. Well, first of all, none of these games are going to be easy. It's not going to be as easy as it's going to be harder than it was when they played at home. Just especially against that Fairfield team. They're on fire right now. They're undefeated in the MAC. That's going to be a really tough game. I really don't see them winning that game. But the Marist game, if they win that, they're in a great position going into the postseason.
All right, moving on. This team started red hot, but are just 2-2 in their last 4 games. How do they make sure they keep their success going and don't fall into a late season slide?
Well, I talked to Chris Zaplinski before the game against Siena, the game after the Marist game, and he said that we took time to breathe. We took that break. We got a big win, but now we still got a game tomorrow. And they dropped that first set against Siena, and that was huge. Siena hasn't been that great in the MAC. So obviously I think a big deal of it is making sure, as good as the freshmen have been, like we talked about, that they keep playing up to the level of an upperclassman, that they don't fall off after playing back-to-back games. I think it's going to be key how they go from game to game, keep their composure, and they're youthful, but they have to make sure that they stay composed and on top of everything.
Chris?
Well, I talked to Klus after one of the games, and we asked a question. With all the success, do you think these teams are surprised? Because obviously we mentioned they haven't had the success in the past. Maybe these other MAC teams weren't expecting this, and now going into the second time playing these games, they know what to expect. They're going to bring it more now. Hey, Quinnipiac, they're the real deal now. They're going to bring it. So not only these freshmen, but like you said, Klus and Lee and Coffey all have to keep that. They have to keep it going. You have to play strong through the second half of the MAC season because these teams are going to bring it. They know what to expect now.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your insight. When we come back, Maury Hirschgordon will tell us why the men's soccer team will suffer after losing James Doig to injury. And Nick Colon is in the piazza breaking down the women's soccer team's success on the touchscreen. You won't want to miss this.
We offer an array of services, from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at a sheer sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services, from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
The Quinnipiac men's soccer team has a one-game lead in the MAC standings, but suffered a critical injury on Saturday when James Doig went down with an apparent shoulder injury. Shane, we will start with you. How much will losing James Doig affect this team?
I really don't think it'll hurt them that much. I think, obviously, last year they struggled without James Doig, and Max Rothenbucher was also hurt. But this year, Rothenbucher is healthy, and I think he's going to come back in the midfield and take over that playmaking role and connect the defense and the offense, and play those through balls to Whalen and Daly. And Ryan Schneiderman has also been a big key, who has 3 assists, who's tied with James Doig and Rashawn Daly for the team lead with 3 assists.
Maury?
I definitely think the team's going to struggle. I don't know how, Shane, you can say the team's going to rely on Max Rothenbucher, a player who hasn't played many games this year. James Doig, clearly a reason why the team only had 2 wins last year. I know we played 2 games at the beginning of the year. The team only had 2 wins, one of them in the regular season. They picked up one down in Florida in the MAC tournament. Josh, it's like losing your quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, Quinnipiac plays a 4-1-3-2, and for those that are not familiar about formations with soccer, 4 on the back line, 3 in the midfield. Doig was that one in between the 4 on the back line and the 3 on that midfield. He's the one that takes their penalty kicks. He's a captain. 2013 all-rookie team. 2014 as a sophomore first team. He surrounds himself with greatness. He had it again, and he's down. The team's going to struggle mightily. This team's also got 2, 3, and 4, the second, third, and fourth best teams right now in the conference. 3 out of their last 4 games of the year.
So as being the number one, he's the signal caller back there?
He's not the signal caller. Clearly, that's Chrysostomos Yakovidis. But he is the bridge between the midfield and the defense, which also means he's going to pop balls over the top to Rashawn Daly, to the likes of Eamon Whalen, to the likes of Ryan Scheideman. So he is that key piece in between the midfield and the defense. He's a vocal leader. He's been there before. He knows how to win. He's been to an NCAA tournament. He's the only player in the starting lineup that started in that NCAA tournament game with the likes of Simon Hine, Mashel Baker, Oli Ogunjobi, Tobias Esch. Players just go down the line. He's been there before. They will struggle mightily down the stretch.
All right, Maury, you were here in 2013 and 2014 when this team had a lot of success. Do you see similarities between that team and this team?
Josh, I see it in 3 specific categories. Solid defense. That year it had Pett, Esch, Panzer, and Hawkey across that back line. I see a lot of the same likes, like Esch and Panzer in the middle as that anchor, like McCoy and Herrera are. I know they are only freshmen. They haven't had late season experience yet, but they are maturing quickly. Just like Esch and Panzer did that year, and they were only sophomores that year in which they won the conference. I see the second point is a go-to scorer. In 2013, it was Simon Hine, 10 goals. In 2014, Mashel Baker, 10 goals. Eamon Whalen's got 8 goals. He's on pace to break double digits for goals this year. And then I see a great goaltender, Borjan Goita, 0.7 goals assists. Goals against average in 2013, and less than that the following year after that. Chrysostomos Yakovidis, 0.76 goals against average, 15th in the nation, 5 shutouts, more than half of what Borjan Goita had his senior year, and he's 15th in the nation in save percentage. The dots line up, but the one missing piece, though, is still Doig.
Yeah, definitely Doig is a huge missing piece, and I agree with you on all those points. Like, there's the great offense with Eamon Whalen, and then Chris Yakovidis has just been phenomenal in goal, surprisingly for a freshman. That was like one of my biggest concerns for this team this year, was finding a solid goalie after Tristan Henry was kind of shaky with his decision making, but he's been phenomenal. And then, like you said, they definitely have a great shot at winning the MAC this year.
All right, now Shane, the next matchup is against Siena, the second team in the MAC, but Quinnipiac is currently first. Do you see them finishing there in the regular season?
this stretch, their next 4 games are very important. They got Siena at home, Rider at home, and then they have Fairfield away, along with St. Peter's, who's down in the rankings in the MAC. But Siena's second, and they definitely have to focus on this. This is a must-win to create some separation at the top of the MAC and get the number 1 seed so they can control. So the MAC goes through them because the number 1 seed hosts the MAC tournament.
Amori?
I definitely don't see Quinnipiac winning the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference regular season. While I do see the team making the playoffs, I don't see them, having home field advantage throughout. I see them in the 2 or the 3 spot, and here's why. Siena's got a great defense. They come in at 4-1, a half game behind Quinnipiac, and Quinnipiac losing James Doig, and as well as Max Rothenbucher for most of the season. Without those 2 guys, they unfortunately don't win tomorrow afternoon's game. Siena will take first place. And then Quinnipiac has St. Peter's, a Rider team who's the best statistical defense in the conference, and they play a Fairfield team who beat Quinnipiac as the number 1 seed the last time Fairfield came and played in Hamden. So I don't see this Quinnipiac team finishing first in the regular season. I see them at around the 2 or the 3 spot.
So in the playoffs, where do you see them finishing?
Well, anything's funny with soccer. Fairfield was the 4 seed and almost ran the table in 2014. They made the short trip over to Quinnipiac. Upset a Quinnipiac team that was undefeated that year in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. All you have to do in soccer is have great goaltending and great defense. And you know who will tell you that? Eric DaCosta. Played here for 4 years. Great player. Was on the back line. And Quinnipiac, all they have to do is just get to penalty kicks in soccer, and then anything can happen from there.
All right, switching over to women's soccer. Our own Nick Cologne is outside breaking down why the women's soccer team is so successful.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, and it's a great time to be a Bobcat if you're a fan of this Quinnipiac women's soccer team, because they're actually 1 win away from clinching their first ever non-automatic bid into the MAC playoffs, and they actually face Siena tomorrow, who knocked them out of contention last season. So we'll see if they can get the result. But the main reason why this team has been successful so far this season is because of their defense. As we'll see here in this clip against Monmouth, the team was actually on a 5-game winning streak where they only let up 3 goals during that span, and part of it is because they moved Jess Gargan, an experienced player that Dave Clark relies on a lot, into that back line to add a little bit of stability and calmness in front of freshman goalkeeper Olivia Mazuski, who actually got her goal against average below 1 goal a game. So we'll see how they get on the rest of the season. But as we see here, Monmouth is in blue, and Monmouth is in white, and Quinnipiac is in blue. And we see a corner kick coming in for Monmouth. Watch Olivia Mazuski make the first save, coming off her line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player. And watch here as Jess Cassio just peels back right in front of her net to get ready to not make 1 save off the line, but 2. Watch as she just springs into action. Excuse me, let me just play this right here. Jess Cassio clears it off the line not once, but all this madness in the box twice. And watch as the ball gets cleared now over to Nadia Gill. And I want to make a point right here as we see the freshman Allie Grunstein getting ready to take off. She's actually even with 1 Monmouth defender here, and she's actually behind another one here as the ball gets played to Nadia Gill. Watch as the counterattack gets underway. And Allie Grunstein just springs into space right here. Nadia Gill's pushing the ball forward. Watch her open up her strides and get into that space as she's going forward. And she actually becomes in the vicinity of 2 more Monmouth defenders with Jess Fontaine on the other side. Nadia Gill still pushing it. Plays a perfect ball into her stride. Takes a great first touch into the 18-yard box. And this is actually in overtime. If she scores, it's the golden goal. The team wins. But instead, she shoots it right at the Monmouth keeper, who actually parries it. Goes in front of Jess Fontaine, who tries to flick it on to Nadia Gill. And you see the anticipation right here. No team gets on the board there, but terrific play from the team, who actually, Dave Clark implemented this counterattacking football. If they're not playing well throughout the game, they can get a set piece here, they can get a counterattack that can really change the momentum of the game. And that's exactly what you see here, a team who's ready to pounce on any opportunity they get. And you see here another chance against Iona. Nadia Gill whips a ball into the box, and I want to stop it right here. As you see Kylie Lance, let me move it on a little further. As you see Kylie Lance stepping up to the ball, and watch here as Nadia Gill takes her first step. Everybody is ball watching. She's the only one who's alert to the actual play going on. Kylie Lance, and actually a defender and a central defensive midfielder, coming around to this top of the 18-yard box, being a great influence for this team going forward. She takes a rip of a shot as it deflects. The keeper saves it off the crossbar, and guess who's there is Nadia Gill to tuck in the rest for her team. Nadia Gill is the exact reason why she leads her team in points, and is actually 3rd in the MAC this season. And as we move on here, you see Allie Grunstein pushing the ball down the line, getting it ready to square it over to Jill Consolini, and you see Allie Grunstein gets it again and tucks it in herself, and that's kind of the underclassmen's role this season, and they've been very effective so far. And lastly, you see Al Pelletier drift out wide, drag some defenders into her presence, whip a ball right into the box for Jess Fontaine to tap home the rest, and this team is absolutely producing right now. And if they can play inspired football like this going the rest of the way, they can make a great run into the MAC playoffs, and hopefully, as Dave Clark might say, get that win and get them a championship, first ever under him. So Josh, back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Nick. We have to take a quick break, but when we get back, MJ Band and Kirby Paulson will put up their dukes as they give their takes on a brewing controversy here in Hamden. We'll be right back.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Looking ahead to next week, the Quinnipiac men's hockey team plays at Boston University Saturday night at 7 p.m. Make sure you follow at Q30 Sports for updates during that game. But now looking back at last week's game, junior goalie Chris Truel let up a goal in the final minute of 2 out of the 3 games he started so far this season. He didn't end up playing Saturday night against Maine. Let's not waste any time. Kirby, is there a goalie controversy?
There's no goalie controversy. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Look, it's one thing if Rand's going with the hot hand and deciding that, hey, you know what, Chris Truel needs a break, especially after a tough third period.
A break after this. We haven't played that many games yet. How does he need a break?
Well, come on. He's played against Northeastern. They're a gritty team, and Maine's the same way. They play a fast style. How can you say that there's a goalie controversy already? The same people that were saying that at the beginning of the season were like, oh, there's a goalie controversy. There's no goalie controversy. Rand doesn't want to give out his secrets. I can't blame him for that, but I don't necessarily think one loss is going to define and make it a goalie controversy. That's a little ridiculous.
MJ?
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say, yes, there is a controversy. I mean, how can there not be a controversy when before the season, Rand Pecknold won't name his starting goalie? I mean, we got Tuesday of the week of the first game, and he says he's not going to give out who he wants. I even heard Chris Truel say he didn't know till Thursday that he was going to play on Friday. That's a controversy to me. If you don't know who you're starting every week, if you are able to have the flexibility to start whoever you want, that's controversy.
MJ, that's silly. That's just silly. I'm sorry. Chris Truel proved against Northeastern that he had the stature to go out and play those big competitive games. He had one bad game against Maine, and Shortridge starts the next night, and everybody thinks that he's done for the season. Come on, there's no controversy here. You know what? I'll give you the point. Going to Shortridge, you know you have a good option to go out there, but that's giving Truel a rest. You got to give me a break there. It's a 6 or 7 hour trip up to Maine. Kid needed a day off.
Okay, what about the fact that Truel, might be on a short leash? You don't know that he's not.
If he didn't win the game, if he didn't win the starting position up, before the game, like MJ mentioned, then obviously Rand didn't have enough confidence in him, correct?
I think there's too much confidence at the school that after Michael Gattig last year, that people are just going to think that, there's going to be one starting goalie all the time. No, I think Chris
So there's a controversy.
No, I don't think that at all. I think Chris Truel has that starting job. There's no problem going to an occasional other goalie at some point, but I don't think there's a controversy
but it's this early in the season, and he's let up 2 goals in the last minute of a game.
The word controversy is silly. Come on
Okay,
now.
so this reminds me of the last time I was on Bobcat Breakdown with Andrew Badillo. He had an issue with the word magic, so now there's an issue with the word controversy. So I don't even know can I use any words on this show?
Guess not.
I guess not.
All right, moving on. MJ, Quinnipiac is getting ready to play teams in the Big East. Are they prepared to do that?
Yes, I believe they are prepared to do that. You got, UConn this Wednesday.
Hockey East. I'm sorry, not Big East.
Yeah, Hockey East. And then next Tuesday they actually have UMass Amherst. So yes, are they prepared to play them? Yes. Is it going to be easy? No.
I guess we're agreeing on something tonight, and that is, yes, I do believe that they can possibly go out there and compete against these guys. I mean, look, it's UConn and UMass next Thursday. They're going to have a big test against Boston University this weekend, but there's nothing saying that they can't compete. I mean, don't get me wrong. Between last year and this year, it's a completely different dynamic. Last year, we saw them go out and compete well against teams like UMass or like Boston College when it mattered. It might be a different dynamic, but there's nothing saying that they can't do that. They competed well against Maine, who's not an easy team no matter where they fall in the standings, and they competed really well against Northeastern, who, in my opinion, is one of the top favorites of the Hockey East.
So which conference is better, Hockey East or ECAC?
Oh, ECAC. What's that smirk?
Kirby, let's go.
What do you mean, LOL?
I can't even think of an emoji to describe how I'm feeling right now. Maybe the rage one with the smoke coming out of the ears. That's just silly, MJ. Come on. Hockey East sent 6 teams to the national tournament last year. I pulled a stat up the other day that over the last 18 seasons, Hockey East has had 25 of the last 72 Frozen Four finishes. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these big Hockey East teams used to be part of the ECAC before '84 when Hockey East came into play, but that was then and this is now.
What was the number you said again for teams making it to the Frozen Four?
25 of the 72.
Okay, so let's take it back the past 5 years, though. 2012, ECAC 1, Hockey East 1. 2013, ECAC 2, Hockey East 1. 2014, 1-1 again. 2015, Hockey East 2, ECAC 0. And then last year, 1-1. Sounds pretty even to me.
And good for Union and Yale that they were able to go out and do that. But this thing that I hear from a lot of ECAC people all the time is this top to bottom theory, right?
That's because it's true.
Oh, come on. Top to bottom, that ECAC is better than Hockey East. You have teams in Hockey East. Let's use Maine as a perfect example.
Okay.
Maine's going out, and they might go through a 4-week span where they have to play Boston University, Providence, UMass, or Boston College. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have teams like Colgate that have to deal with Princeton, Dartmouth, the occasional Union if they're on the hot hand. It's just a different kind of competition level.
Okay, but UMaine also gets to play UMass Amherst, UConn, UNH. So, I mean, yes, you're just talking about the bottom teams in each conference.
I wouldn't necessarily discredit UNH, but you got to sit here and remember that it's a completely different thing. The point of the matter is that those lower teams that might be considered lower on that standard are also playing really good teams constantly, weekend in, weekend out, and at the same time, they're getting the better competition. It's just a competition scale at that point.
So Kirby, do you see Quinnipiac joining the Hockey East at some point?
Do I see Quinnipiac at the Hockey East? I think that Quinnipiac is in a good spot in ECAC where they're able to compete. Basically they've been at the top of the chain for the last few years now, and that puts them in really good position for the tournament. I think if they were to go to Hockey East, there would be that adjustment period, but at the same time, I still think they could compete towards the top, towards the middle top area. I don't necessarily think they'd be at the top, but again, it's the adjustment period and understanding that if they were to go to Hockey East, they'd still have a competition level there. They'd be playing, in my opinion, much better competition.
MJ?
Yeah, I have to completely agree with Kirby. Quinnipiac, as much as I'd like them to go to Hockey East and see them play a lot of good teams that are in Hockey East, they basically, I don't want to say have a playoff position locked up, but they have a much better chance every year in and year out in the ECAC. I do want to bring up one quick thing, though. Kirby, I think we can agree that this year you can't really look at yet. It's way too early in the season. But last year, in terms of just trying to match up the conferences, Hockey East had 6 teams with a record below 500. That's both in conference and overall. ECAC had only 4 teams that were below 500. So you got the ECAC, half the leagues below 500. And I'm sorry, Hockey East, half the teams below 500. ECAC, only a third of the teams. That just leads me to believe the ECAC conference.
I'm going back to my same argument in that you can make the argument that they're below those 500 standards because they're playing extremely good teams. For instance, you could say, oh, okay, come on now. Think about the border war, UNH, Maine. That's a grudge match. Neither of those teams, especially Maine, and Quinnipiac has learned that, is that they're not willing to give up in those games. All the teams in that conference have learned that they have to compete at a high level. UConn is still on an adjustment period because they just moved from Atlantic into Hockey East. That's been a big adjustment for Mike Kavanaugh and his staff, who, by the way, Andrew Raycroft, former Bruins goalie, is the volunteer coach there. But the point is that the competition in Hockey East is just different. That's just how it is.
I have another stat here. Looking at the top 5 players or leaders in each category. Team penalty kill last year, ECAC had 2 teams, Hockey East had 1. Team power play, ECAC had 2, Hockey East had none. Goaltender percentage, save percentage was the same, so we're going to call the goalies somewhat of a wash, although you could just go on a really rant if you wanted to on that, so I'm not even going to go there. Power play goals, Quinnipiac had 3 players in the top 5. Hockey East only had 1. I'm sorry, ECAC, not Quinnipiac. So I'm just going to stick with ECAC, and we can agree to disagree.
Really quick, we need to switch over to women's hockey. Really quick, I just want a player. Who's starting when they play this weekend? Quinnipiac, that is.
For what position?
For goalie, I'm sorry, for goalie.
For men's or women's?
For men's.
Crystal.
All right, so that's it for men's hockey. The Quinnipiac Bobcats women's hockey team is also traveling to Boston College Saturday afternoon to play their 7th game of the season. Our beat reporters will be there, so make sure you are following them for updates throughout the game. Kirby, let's start with you. Looking back at last week, are you at all concerned with the Bobcats splitting the Mercyhurst series?
I think it's a little too early to be concerned with things like that. It's early, again.
It's actually like almost 10, 15 at night.
I know. Thanks, MJ.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
And I believe that sometimes getting a loss out of the way can be beneficial for that team and define them going forward. The same effect with Mercyhurst. Don't forget, they were ranked in the preseason 2nd in the conference behind Syracuse.
Right?
Yeah, MJ, I'm just going to defer to you. I'm just going to defer to you.
You can't fathom what you're saying because it's wrong. You have to be concerned with this Mercyhurst series. Quinnipiac comes into this series at the weekend at number 2, okay? Mercyhurst wasn't even ranked. So dropping a game to them, yeah, it's on the road. I'll give you that, down at Pennsylvania. That is not good, okay?
Don't forget, though, this is the same team, Mercyhurst, that tied North Dakota in the beginning of the 2 weeks before. I mean, North Dakota, the women's team, has been a very good squad, just like the men's team. They have a great goaltender in Jessica Convery, who has a 1.06 goals allowed average so far through 4 games. And those 4 games are Boston College and Quinnipiac. Now, don't get me wrong, Boston College has started off to a slow start. But at the same time, you can't take the credit away from them. I think they're going to end up competing in the tournament. I really do.
Wait, so MJ, do you think one of the reasons that this team is struggling is because of their team dynamic?
I think when you look at this team dynamic as a whole, they're struggling, and I'm going to put one word to the team dynamic, and I'm just going to basically say it's new. I mean, with all the people that graduated last year, Sid Rossman's back. She's a brick wall. There's no change there. The offense, yes, you lose. I guess we call it the Nicole cubed line, Kirby, in Connery, Costa, and Brown. But overall, coming back with, TT, Cianfrano, Sam Miskevich, Megan Turner, I don't see the big issue being the forwards. And I think we can agree on this. The difference or the newness is in the defensemen.
And I agree with you 100%. I mean, in my opinion, the pieces are there. It's not going to be an instantaneous success rate. It's just not. It's going to be a completely different gauging of the situation. At the same time, they have the pieces to go forward in the future. They have the leadership, like TTC and Brown, like Melissa Samoskevich. They have Sid Rossman in net. So yes, you know what? It's a new dynamic, but at the same time, it's going to take some time, okay? And you're looking at a team that lost all that leadership. And also, we're also talking about 6 players that put in serious, consistent numbers when it came to ice time. That makes a huge difference when you lose that many people, and that's why it's going to be so interesting to see how Quinnipiac does against Boston College this weekend.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That is all the time we have. When we come back for our final block of the special, Brian Schwartz and Phil Aker will recap all the fall sports and pick their winners for our game of the week.
From basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at a sheer sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation. Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
Welcome back to the final block of our midseason special. I have the privilege of being joined by the dynamic freshman duo, Brian Schwartz and Phil Akery. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Doing great.
All right, how this will work is these guys, I will ask them a question about any of the fall teams, and they will answer writing on the whiteboard. The first question is, which team will have the most playoff success? Which fall team? All right, Phil, we'll start with you.
Well, I know Maury Hirschhorn's going to disagree with me on this one, but I chose men's soccer. Reason being, you have to consider this. They were 2-11 last year, and now they're 9-5 this year. And I know they lost James Doy, a huge piece, but they're 5-1 in conference play. That's huge, and that's only going to benefit them later in the road, or later on down the road. Them and Siena, they've been the best two teams in the MAC, 1 and 2 respectively. They're a young, for the most part, and hungry team, led obviously by freshman standout Eamon Whalen. He has 8 goals, and he's the leader in a lot of important categories in the MAC. They also have Chris Yakovitis in goal. He's been fantastic for them the entire season. 51 saves, 5 shutouts, an .850 save percentage, which leads the MAC, and that's 15th best in the entire country. And also, they have a fantastic road record of 5-2. That's just going to be a big plus for them down the road.
All right, Brian, hold it up so people can see it. What team do you have going the furthest?
Well, I'm going with women's rugby, the team that went all the way last year. We don't know if they're going to go all the way again this year, but I think they have a really good shot to. The one team that they've lost to this year is Central Washington. They lost October 15th against Central Washington. That was their last loss. Before last week, it was only 19-12. So again, it was a close game. They have a chance. They've been right in this game. Other than that, their average margin of victory this season, 42.6. How about that? I mean, that's ridiculous.
A Schwartzbaum right there.
There's a Schwartzbaum for you. You'll have more to come later. So, that's just 42.6 is just outstanding. They're second place in the NIRA. The only team ahead of them, again, is Central Washington. So if they end up finishing 1 and 2, those are going to be the top 2 teams. They're going to face each other in the national championship, and I think that could be the team that goes the furthest in the postseason.
That would definitely be a game to watch. Now, a new question. You guys can erase your boards. Which player has been the MVP through the whole fall season? From when the team started to today, who is the MVP of Quinnipiac sports? We'll see who's finished first. It looks like it's going to be Schwartz. What is your answer?
All right, well, I'm going with Eamon Whalen. Eamon Whalen, the freshman forward on the soccer team. He's had just an outstanding first year with Quinnipiac. He leads Quinnipiac in goals. He's got 8. He's second on the team, tied with Ryan Scheiderman with 4 assists. He's got 3 game winners already this year. He's a big game player, 2 goals in a rivalry game against Yale. He's the MAC Rookie of the Week twice so far this season. He's just been racking up the accolades, tons of goals, as we said. He's always around the goal. He's a huge part of this team. Here's a quote that Josh Silverman gave me the other day. He's on pace for a little over 10 goals this season. Quinnipiac as a team, 12 goals all of last
11,
season.
11 in the regular season
right.
last year. All right, Phil, who do you have?
Well, I chose women's volleyball, Jen Coffey. She's been a force for the team this season. She's in the midst of a true breakout season. The sophomore from New Hampshire is a leader and dominant in all aspects of her game. She leads the team in points, 295, leads the team in points per serve, just under 4, and she leads the team in kills with 274. The second best in the team is 194. Huge difference right there. She's 6'1", huge body in that front line, and when she spikes, it's almost unhittable. She looks to be the future of this team.
All right, our next question. So every fall team has had a lot of success, but which team is the surprise team of the fall season? A lot of choices here. Every team has had a lot of success. And Brian, who do you have?
I mean, this one was a tough one for me. I think there's been a lot of surprise teams in the fall. Obviously, Phil is a good one too. But I went with women's soccer. I think that this team coming in, they're 9-5-1 right now, 7-3 in the MAC. They were 8-8-1 last year. So at 500, they really have done a better job this year, coming back strong. They lost their goalkeeper, Natalia Grodzki, who started all 17 games last year. Olivia Mazuski took over. She's played the last 8 games, winning 5 of her last 6, 43 saves, 2 shutouts. They've been huge so far.
I'm going to go with volleyball, sticking with it. I mean, this team won 12 games over the past 4 seasons, and they're 16-7 right now. That's one of the best records in the MAC. They're at the top. No one would have expected this. They're only behind Fairfield, who's another powerhouse in the MAC. They're full of young talent. You got freshman Maria Pansari. She is unbelievable with how many assists she puts out per game. One game against Fairleigh Dickinson this year, she had 55 alone. She's a quiet player, but she's dominant on the court, and she makes everyone around her better. And she's also, even though she's smaller, she can get up over the net to spike it down. Also, as we touched upon earlier in the show, Alejandra Rodriguez, all the way from Puerto Rico, she's unbelievable. She's all over the court. And then all these young players, they pair well with the older players on the team, like junior Elizabeth Clues and senior Allison Lay. They're primed for a deep playoff run as long as they can get past Fairfield.
All right, this is our last question. We'll keep it simple. Who's the coach of the year so far? Again, a lot of choices. Every team has had a lot of success. Some of these coaches have been here for decades. We got to keep this one quick. Brian, you just keep beating Phil. Who do you have?
My quick handwriting. I'll go with Becca Main of the field hockey team. She took this team from Division II to Division I, from the MAC to the Big East, now in a big conference, and they've been so successful they just knocked off number 19, Old Dominion, and they're in a good position for a playoff run.
All right, Phil, we got to keep it short.
I'm going to stick again with volleyball. It's the duo of Chris Zaplinski and Chad Davis. They have improved this team so well. With all the talent they have, doesn't matter if you have all the talent in the world. If you don't know how to utilize it, you're not going to have a good record. I mean, they've came into this year, and they're legit playoff contenders. Again, no one would have ever thought this was going to happen to this team this year. Chad Davis came all the way down from Florida, and he's proven to be a huge voice throughout practice, and it's translated to the games.
All right, you guys don't have to use the whiteboard for this. The Quinnipiac men's soccer team is currently riding a 5-game winning streak, but the loss of senior James Doig might be too much for them to overcome. With second place, Siena College coming to town tomorrow. That has been the perfect matchup for our game of the week. Who do you guys have in the matchup?
Well, I think Quinnipiac's going to win it. Listen, I know James Doig was a huge, huge piece of this team, and his injury definitely hurts. But this team's motivated. They're on a 5-game win streak right now, and it's a clash of both teams at the top of the MAC. They know it's at stake. Siena has a 6-6 overall record, but they're 4-1 in the MAC. Quinnipiac also good in the MAC. It's going to be a good team.
All right, Browning.
See, I'm going with Siena here. I'm a little worried about Quinnipiac. They're without James Doig for this game. Siena has beaten Quinnipiac in the last time they faced them, so it's going to be a tough test for Eric DeCosta's team.
All right, thank you. That's it for our hour-long midseason special. We want to thank everyone who helped out because it wouldn't have been possible without everyone else. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Q30Sports and at www.q30television.com. Make sure you visit our website at www.q30television.com. Thank you for joining us.